Imagine bringing hope where there was none. My name is Judith Schaefer. I was listening to a Christian radio program the other day, and a man called in to talk about his autistic daughter who could not communicate with words. He said that when she was overstimulated, she would yell and become unruly. And she was having one of these episodes in a Walmart parking lot one day. And he said people were walking by and looking, but not one of them stopped to offer assistance to his daughter. Now think about that. What would you have done? Would you offer assistance to a child in need? Now, imagine yourself sitting at a table trying to teach mathematics to 4 10-year-old children who are so hyper that they're ready to jump out of their skin. Or trying to help a child read who cannot see the words on the page the way they are written. I have spent the past 4 months working in a small school district known for its special education program. I work in a resource center with elementary school children who are learning disabled in areas such as speech, language arts, mathematics, and reading. They have disabilities such as attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, autism, Asperger's syndrome, and dyslexia, as well as psychological and emotional disorders. These children cannot function in a normal classroom, and so I work with them in groups and one-on-one in the resource center. I believe we can make an impact in the entire world and further God's redemptive plan by making an impact on one single child. Now, there are many wonderful mentoring programs out there, but do they reach every child that needs to be reached? We are responsible for the next generation. We keep ourselves busy, and we are busy, so we don't have time to connect with children. Many of us complain about the moral state of children. If children grow up without values and a spiritual connection, perhaps it is because they weren't shown or taught those things. We have forgotten our main business as Christians. As Christians, the more contact we have with children, the greater our chances are to further God's redemptive plan. In the resource center where I work, some of the disorders suffered by the children are genetic, but most are not. Many of these children come from broken homes and homes where there is substance abuse. Some of their disorders are the result of their mother's substance abuse while she was pregnant. Some of their disorders are the result of neglect, or trauma, and abandonment. Take 9-year-old Stephen, for example. Stephen suffers from dyslexia and Asperger's syndrome. According to Mayo Clinic, dyslexia is an impairment in your brain's ability to translate written images received from your eyes into meaningful language. So a child with dyslexia cannot read the words on a page. Here are some examples of the way a child with dyslexia may see words on a page. This is called swirl. It is focused. This is what you're seeing is exactly the way they see it. It looks a little more focused in the middle, and then it goes ahead and it swirls around, and it gets more unfocused as it goes on. And that is called swirl. The other one is rivers on a page. And rivers on a page, basically the spaces between the words stand out, and that is what the child sees more so than the words themselves. And so it looks like rivers on a page as the spaces run together. And Stephen sees in rivers on a page when he looks at and goes to read. Okay. Besides the obvious with dyslexia, there is a emotional element to it, in that children with dyslexia do have depression and hostility. Now, Stephen not only has dyslexia, but he also has Asperger's syndrome. And Asperger's syndrome is a disorder at the milder end of the autistic spectrum disorders. And the Mayo Clinic defines Asperger's syndrome as a developmental disorder that affects a child's ability to socialize and communicate effectively with others. Now, let's look at Stephen's background. Stephen's mom left when Stephen was young, and his father continued to raise him and his older sister in a state of poverty and neglect. When Stephen's dad left 2 years ago, Stephen's 19-year-old cousin took him and his sister in. That 19-year-old cousin is unmarried and also has a baby of her own. So let's recap. Stephen is a 9-year-old boy who has never known his mother and who was abandoned by his father at the age of 7. He has known only poverty. He is unable to form relationships even though he wants to and he desperately needs to. He spends his school recesses and lunchtimes alone. He goes home and is alone with very little stimulation. Now, add to this his inability to succeed in school and the fact that the teachers want him to do the impossible. They want him to read. Now, if a dyslexic child is motivated and supportive, they can learn to accommodate to a certain point and possibly read to a grade level that will get them through school. But what support and motivation does a child like Stephen have? What chances does a child like Stephen have? When I met Stephen and spent time with him, I found him to be depressed and suicidal. I knew I couldn't just tell him that God loved him. I had to show him that God loved him. Does this matter to God as much as I hoped it mattered to Stephen? Well, what is the most important thing in the world to God? By sending his Son, our Heavenly Father has shown us that the most important thing in this world is his redemptive plan for us. The unified mission of the church is to establish his kingdom through the redemption of his people. As Christians, we have gifts that enable us to further God's plan. We don't always have the opportunity to transform lives by proclaiming the good news, but we always have the opportunity to change someone's future by showing them who God is. In fact, if we have made ourselves accountable to Jesus, we have the responsibility to further his plan in some way on a daily basis. The job I have is immensely important. It does not require me to go to India or Africa on a mission to save children. It only required me to go down to my local school district and apply for a teacher's aide position. We all have opportunity to make a difference in someone's life. In 1 Corinthians, St. Paul said that he would stay in Ephesus because a great door for effective work has opened to him. And God opens doors for all of us to carry out his mission of redemption. If we walk through those doors, we learn what it is like to be one with our Heavenly Father. Perhaps today you could walk through the doors of your local elementary or high school and begin a journey that will redeem a child's life. Or maybe just stop and ask someone in a Walmart parking lot if they need help with their child. Doors are open everywhere. We must never forget that we can make an impact on the entire world, and we can further God's plan for redemption by making an impact on one single child. Mentoring programs are not capable of reaching every needy child. There are situations all around us where we can provide for a child in need, but by committing to working in the field of elementary education, we can minister to children who otherwise would not be reached. And our King will reply, I tell you the truth, whatever you did for the least of these brothers, mine, you did for me. Thank you.